going out live in a few moments. So one of the problems about using Twitch is that once my stream goes live, it takes a little bit before it starts showing up on the actual website. So there's like this time delay as if I'm communicating with myself to the moon. Speed of light, stuff like that. But, okay, it does look like it's live. Hopefully, let me just do a little twitch here just to verify I can hear myself. Booga booga. Okay, so it looks like sound is working, so that's a good thing because, sometimes I start these Twitch streams and I can't hear myself and then I get everybody telling me that, sound doesn't work, this doesn't work, whatever. Hopefully I'll just give a little bit of time for people to start coming in and hopefully starting the stream and enjoying my mindless blather. But what we're going to be talking about today is what made the headlines about a week and a half ago, which is Stadia shutting down. Google saying, well, it's time to add another entry to whatisgooglekill.com list. Let me find that here. Google killed. Yeah, killedbygoogle.com. This is real. And I didn't make that. Killed by Google, one word. So just write killed, B-Y, google.com. It's an ever-growing list of titles, projects, incentives, whatever, started by Google, and then after a period of time, they are then sent down to the toilet, to the bit bucket to be forgotten. The only thing that survived so far this long is the search engine. And Gmail's around. But, it's really bad when a company kills projects so often and so regularly that someone goes out of their way to create a website specifically to document the birth, life, and then eventual death of a project. Well, one of those projects affected me directly, and that is the Google Stadia. For those of you who have been living under a rock, the Google Stadia is a streaming-based gaming system, gaming platform, in which when you sign up and you pay your monthly fee, which either was $19.95 down to $9.95, whatever. They change the prices over time. But the issue was that when you play it either on a web page, on a phone app, or a dedicated app on certain pads and Android devices. And of course for PC and Mac and Linux, you just simply pulled up Chrome, went to the website, and you play the game on the web page. And the way this whole system works is that they have PCs with super high-end video cards running Linux, and they run the games. And then the video card has been modified, so instead of rendering to a back buffer and then sending that back buffer to a video display like you'd normally do with any video console, this GPUs actually rendered it to a compressed data stream. And then this data, which is already compressed, ready to go, is then sent over the internet to your client, which then does the equivalent of playing a Blu-ray movie. And of course, the system is designed that if your bandwidth is really, really high, it's sending you 4K worth of graphics. If it's really low, it's giving you 640 by, I think it's 640 by 300 or whatever it is for the proper aspect ratio, and then just scales it up so it looks a little blurry and artifacted, but it's still running at 30 frames per second, or as high as 60 if you really got a good throughput. The key is that these Stadia controllers, they look like regular console controllers, and of course if you wire it to your PC through a USB cable, you can even use it as a standard PC USB controller. We'll get to that a little bit minute. But one of the things that these things did that no other controller does, for a reason, is that these controllers communicate via Wi-Fi, not Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. So therefore, if I'm sitting in my home, this controller, when I press buttons on it, will send a signal over the Wi-Fi network directly to my base station, straight to the Google server, so that when I'm playing my Stadia game that this is mated to, I get a few milliseconds shaved off my latency. Because otherwise, if it was Bluetooth, it would take some time, send it Bluetooth to the PC, then the PC's got to munch it, then it sends it out. It's Wi-Fi, because remember, your PC is usually, how to say it? Your PC is usually hooked up via Wi-Fi, because it's usually a laptop. But in my case, mine's a PC is hooked up through Ethernet directly into the router, so very little latency. But also at the same time, let's say you're playing your game on an iPad, or a Chromecast, in which these devices have no connection whatsoever, may not even be Bluetooth connected. All they know is that, the Chromecast starts up Stadia, and when Stadia begins, this thing establishes a direct connection to the Stadia servers, so that the Chromecast or the smart TV or whatever it is literally just nothing but a display. It doesn't even interact with this at all. And that was one of its biggest tricks in order to get the system to run as fast as it did. Now, granted, it's still going over the internet. There's still latency issues, and there's some things that just technology, unless everybody's on a fiber line, is just not going to solve. Well, wonderful. Games are on it, and we thought, hey, we got a game we're coming up with called Luxor. I didn't really announce to the world, but about a year ago, I entered into an agreement in which I owned a portion of the rights to the game Luxor. So that Luxor was co-owned by myself and one other gentleman. And he was going to start putting out some brand new Luxor games on mobile, and I was going to take the Luxor games and put them on consoles. So the game that was the most console-friendly was a game called Luxor Evolved. So, over time, got myself set up with dev kits for all the major players, and start talking to Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft about, hey, we're going to bring Luxor Evolved to console. I got the usual, yeah, whatever, you get in line with all the other people wanting to put games on our platforms. But when I approached the people at Stadia, they're like, oh my god, this is a really cool game. We really would like it on Stadia. So, by their enthusiasm and their encouragement, I worked with them that we were going to have a whole launch and a release, and Google was going to release on their Stadia page and maybe do some ads and put the game on the front page. And then Stadia announced this thing called Stadia Pro, in which instead of what Stadia was doing, they made it more of a Netflix model. Now, I'm going to backtrack here. When Stadia first came out, when I first heard of it, when they announced it back in 2018, and then launched in 2019, my first thought was that it was going to be a Netflix of video games. That is, you have the streaming service, has all these games on their machines. It's all remote, so all I need is a controller and something with a display, and anywhere I want, as long as I have this controller and a display, I can play Stadia games. I would be able to, just like Netflix, just go up there and pick any game that's in the entire catalog and play it, as long as I pay my $9.95, $19.95 monthly subscription fee. just like Netflix, because Netflix is you pay your subscription fee and then you watch all the movies you want. I mean, Disney tried what Stadia did and got, their hand whacked. But let's go back to Stadia. When Stadia finally launched, to my horror, the people at Google thought it would be a great idea to pretend that this wasn't a Netflix for games, but it was a console. That is, like, you buy your Xbox, you buy your Switch, you buy your PlayStation 4, 5, when you can, considering how hard it is to get a PS5 even this day. Then, once you get the console, then you go ahead and pay $50, $60 per game ad infinitum, and therefore that's where the money's to be made. Well, the problem is that with a console, you get a physical piece of hardware, which not only runs Call of Duty or Destiny or whatever game really you like. It also is a Netflix box or a Disney Plus box. To put it in perspective, downstairs in our big living room, we have a giant TV. Hooked up to it is a PlayStation 4. It used to be a 3, but the 3 doesn't support Disney Plus, so we moved it up to a 4. And that PlayStation 4 has not played a game ever since I got it. It has been playing nothing but Amazon Prime, Hulu, HBO Max, Netflix, and YouTube. That because it's essentially been turned into nothing more than a set-top box. It's a physical piece of hardware. Now, granted, yes, I own games and I play games, but I play them in my office, not downstairs in the main living room. So hence, my PlayStation 4 and my Xbox and all the other things are all sitting around the office off camera. Whereas Stadia wanted to pretend that, hey, you now own a Stadia console, even though you can't really see it, it's just virtual. But instead of paying one price to buy it, or getting it from your cousin or friends when they get bored with it, and then I just acquire it for free, because, like, I get PlayStation 3s and PlayStation 4s to me from friends all the time because I got a PS5. Why do I need this piece of junk? But with Stadia is they wanted you to pay them. I think it was $9.95. I could be wrong on that number. But somewhere around $9.95, maybe $19.95, some other amount. You're supposed to pay that amount a month to maintain your subscription. If you ever stop paying that, your access to Stadia goes away. Well, here's the problem. You start up Stadia, you start paying your monthly fee, and then they ask you then, you got to pay $50, $60, $70 for all these games, the same price you're paying on the Xbox or on the PlayStation. Now, on the surface, it sounds reasonable. I mean, if you're going to be paying $50 for the game on Xbox, then you should be willing to pay it on Stadia. But they miscalculated in the sense that many people had already bought the game on Xbox or on PlayStation. And they're not that interested in paying that money again to put it on a new platform. Now, granted, Google did do things like Stadia exclusives and so forth. So if you played the Stadia version, then you would have content that's only available on Stadia as an incentive. But even so, it's not that big of an incentive. It took them a long time to realize that a monthly fee and then buying games is a bad idea, because let's say you bought 20 games at $50 a piece. That's $1,000. Math. And then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, I can't pay my $9.95 a month anymore to access Stadia. Now I can't access my $1,000 library of video games. That's a problem. So this is the thing that that the people upstairs at Google didn't really think about, was all the psychological aspects of paying money to rent your console, paying money to buy your games, but if the console is taken away from you, your entire investment in the games you've purchased goes out the window. And that tends to piss people off. Reading from the library categories here, says, like, I saw this the other day, that's why I don't like stuff like it, Antstream. The only person using Stadia are the ones living under a particular rock. That's why I was shut down. Okay, first time chat. Primary reason I never interested in Stadia. Pax Virtua. Pax Virtua also writes, double dipping is a wild proposition. Even when you already own them on PC, you need to do that. Yep. Well, as an example, Disney tried that stunt. Disney has Disney Plus, where you pay a fee, like, I think it's like $69.95 a year to get all the Disney Plus movies. And of course, it's been creeping up ever since. But you get to watch all the movies. Everything that's on Disney Plus, like Netflix, like Paramount Plus, etc. There you go. But then Disney said, hey, maybe we should do what's called Disney Plus Premium, in which a movie's in the theater and we're going to charge you money, like $24.95 or something, which only unlocks the film that's in the theater. And if you just wait 3 months, it's on Disney Plus anyways for everybody. That didn't go over very well. I know that they made some money, but it wasn't really enough money to justify the bad press. Because you may have noticed, Disney Plus hasn't done that in quite a long time, where they would say, a movie's in the theater. Maybe if you paid the Disney premium price, then you get to watch the movie on Disney Plus. Well, that's the same kind of mentality that happened with Stadia, except that happened day one. Had Stadia done what I imagined that it would do, that is, they would contact a bunch of video game developers, get a bunch of games ported over to Stadia on launch day, which they did, and then all the games are free, technically free. That is, you pay your fee, $9.95 or $19.95, whatever makes the math work, and then you just play all the games you want. And then as a developer, how many hours or some other metrics people play the game. Like, I get a small amount of money for every hour someone plays my game, and then another, or maybe whenever an achievement is done, I get a small fee, whatever it is. So as people play the game, by the time they get to the end of the game, the fees would add up to maybe about $5, maybe $1 or $5 at most. But when you have everybody on Stadia playing the game, technically for free, even though I am selling the game for $5 per person, if everybody's playing it, that's a lot of $5 bills. It's the same mentality of why you see Netflix spending, $50 million to make a movie, but, if they have 50 million subscribers watch the film, and they effectively take just $1 of their fees and associate it with this film, pays for the film. And with indie developers like myself, my biggest problem right now is just getting people to advertise the game. I have to spend money on, YouTube streaming, for crying out loud. Making a my Twitter handle, where I'm constantly putting out bad jokes and news articles and things like that to get people to follow me. So then, therefore, when I actually have something I want to announce, which I was going to announce about this time, that Luxor was coming to Stadia, because this is about the time. It was supposed to be released or announced on Friday, which is supposed to be announced technically tomorrow, on Stadia with a trailer and everything else like that, with all being played exclusively on the Stadia version. Well, that didn't happen. So we're right now putting together a trailer, but except this time it's going to have Microsoft Xbox logos on it. And of course, played on an Xbox, because the trailer we made was all made on the Stadia version. So if I'm going to advertise an Xbox version, I got to be honest and not play it on a Stadia. Something was between my teeth. Ow. But anyways, as I was saying. So, that didn't happen. People didn't really embrace Stadia because the fact that the idea that if I buy a bunch of games, that if I stop paying my $9.95 or whatever the fee is, goes away. So in a few, I think it was the beginning of the year. Again, I could be wrong on these dates and stuff because I'm not following Stadia and their life story. So exact dates, I'll take it with a grain of salt. But some time ago, Stadia realized the error of their ways, plus the fact that Microsoft, of all people, has realized that, if you have a thing called an Xbox Game Pass, where if you pay an extra little fee, that instead of just being Xbox Live, you also get to play a series of games for free. Now, in their case, you're actually downloading them on your Xbox and playing them locally, so there is no streaming involved. But the concept's the same. If you pay your Xbox Game Pass Ultimate price per year or per month, which I think per month is somewhere around $14.95 or something like that, give or take. I think it's $14.95. A whole slew of Microsoft branded games, as well as some third-party games, are available to play whenever you want to. Epic, their game store, every week they have a free 1 or 2 games that it's a way for you to keep logging into the Epic Game Store and then download free games, which Epic pays monies to those developers, saying, hey, here's X number of dollars, we're just going to give it to you, but in exchange, we want to be able to just give away your game for a period of time. And then after the period of time is done, it's back to being on sale on the market. However, though, if the people play your game and they really, really like it, hit them with a DLC. It's working. But when you have companies that are essentially doing the pay a fee, get free games, or in the case of Epic, please pay attention to us instead of Valve. Here's some free games. It's hard to compete. So Stadia created something called Stadia Pro, which is essentially the Xbox Game Pass. You pay a little extra money. I think it was $19.95 a month. Again, numbers, stuff, I may be right, but it could be off by a couple of digits, so please don't hit me in the comment section. I'm already giving you a disclaimer that the numbers, don't remember them. But what they did with Stadia Pro is that they would approach a bunch of developers, much like Epic did, and say, hey, if you allow us to put it on Stadia Pro, we're going to meter your game, or give you a flat fee, or whatever it is, and then therefore, we get some money, and we like money, because, rent, food, health insurance, those are really nice. And then everybody can play your game for free. And it would work out quite nicely. And the plan, it appeared to be working quite nicely. They were seeing an uptick of people signing up to Stadia. They were seeing an uptick in the number of hours people were playing. And they said, hey, Luxor Evolved looks like a perfect game we can add to Stadia Pro. What do you say? And we said, yes, let's do this. Which is why we were going to do this big campaign, because all over the freaking video it said available on Stadia Pro, November 1st. At least that was the original date. We may have slipped, who knows, but we're working really hard on getting it out by that date. But we were that close to being done. But the issue was that we were going to be on Stadia Pro. They were going to give us front page ads. And then what we would have done both on my Twitter feed and on the old school web page and stuff like that, because we haven't even started the web page yet, because, November 1st was the ship date, that we were going to have a whole page dedicated to Stadia Pro Luxor Evolved. And then we're just going to keep quiet on it while we're working on the other versions, because, we are working on Switch, PlayStation, Xbox versions. But the hang-up was, once it was going to be around December 1st, give or take, then we were going to change our website saying, now we're going to be, coming soon on the Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch. The Switch is the one closest to be the second one done. Actually, no, Xbox. Xbox nearly finished. The Switch is the one that still needs work, but it's going to be this. So it's going to be in the order of Xbox first, Switch next, PlayStation last. Not necessarily this, but just getting them out the door. I mean, each version does take work. It's not like 3DO Doom where you just simply take a CD and put it in another machine and it automatically works in this fantastic alternate reality that I do not live in. But however, that was the plan. And then I get up one morning a week and a half ago, getting ready to start the day. And I look on our private channel for our communication between everybody at Old School. And one of my people said, is this true? And sends a link to the blog post on Stadia. To which, okay. And usually I thought it might be some, industry news or something like that. Or maybe Elon Musk said something again. So I went over to click on it, and right there it said, we're shutting down Stadia. And I'm sitting there going, okay, is this The Onion? Is this blog.stadia.com? And that's when this is a chair. Oh. I literally did this, and I just sat there looking up at the ceiling going this is Dreamcast all over again. Holy hell. And I thought, okay, let me double check this. Make sure that somebody didn't hack the site or spreading false news or something, because the blog post was the only thing I had, and according to the time code on the website, it was only up for 10, 15 minutes. So okay, capture the link, sent an email off to my developer relations rep at Stadia, and I said, is this true? And here's the link. And, well, considering time zones, for me, I got at my desk at 9 o'clock Central Time, so this dropped around 7 a.m.-ish Pacific Time. And my rep works Pacific Time, and 7 a.m. is, unless you're a day person, that's like vampire. I mean, I'm in my coffin at 7 a.m. I'm in my bed, covered in cats and blankets, and going do not give me my coffee until 10. Don't even bother. I don't even know why I was up at 9 that day, but maybe because I had the existential fear of dread. Chat line. Mopey Bloke writes, to me, the worst thing about Stadia was that you had no ownership, worse than double dipping, because you're still merely renting the game at full price. That's one of my points, because if it was a service that I paid $9.95 a month and the games rotated and did stuff like that, then if I stopped paying for it, then it's okay if the whole library disappeared, because the library never was mine anyways. It was basically, hey, I got a library card. I can go into the library, read the books. I can't take them with me. But I can read every book I want. But then once I do something stupid and I get kicked out of the library, well, all the books are in the library and I can't get in until I get a new library card. I can deal with this. But if I go into a B. Dalton Booksellers and say, I need to first get a B. Dalton Booksellers library card, I go in there and buy the books I want to read, but I can't take the books out of the bookstore. Okay, there's a section that says Becky's Books. There's all my books in there. But then if one day my library card doesn't work, I'm going to say, wait a minute, but my books are in there. It says, sorry, that's the mentality. And that's why the buying a game on a streaming service psychologically hurts my brain. Now, granted, from their point of view, their idea was you're paying $9.95 a month for a video game console that will never, ever go obsolete. Because, every few years they're going to refresh the hardware with the newer video cards, the newer hardware, and it's all going to be backward compatible. with the previous games, or they're just going to leave a bunch of racks with the old Stadia model, and then they're going to introduce a new Stadia model. It's the equivalent of saying, I have a couple of server racks with PlayStation 2s in it, then another one with PlayStation 3s, another with 4s and 5s, and then based on the game I play, it'll just spin up that server and start the game. So therefore, I have eternal access to my library. I don't have to worry about obsolescence. And as the newer, sexier hardware comes out, and like Call of Duty 9 is released, requiring, a CPU that requires water cooling in Arctic conditions, I can still play the game with my $9.95, and it's all automatic. And of course, I can go to Luxor Evolve, which basically goes to one of the older machines that barely, like for all I know, is a Raspberry Pi, and it runs the game just fine too. So that was the idea behind it. But the whole thing was the concept still psychologically of me spending $50 to own a game from a store that I could lose access to if I don't pay my monthly fee. And therein is the problem. Well, going back to the story here, a few hours later, I get an email back from my developer relations manager, who then she sends to me saying, "News to me? What the fuck?" And, WTF. And then she goes, "Oh, I guess this is what the all hands is about." And I'm like, okay. So I sent an email saying, yeah, as soon as you get information, can you please share it with me? And didn't hear anything about that until a few more hours later, where she then sends me an email saying, can we go into a Google Hangouts right now, or Google Meet, whatever they call it, because again, Google changes their names and cancels stuff all the time. I said, yes, I'm available right now. So we immediately get online, have a one-on-one chat, to which she just apologizes profusely, going like, "Oh, we did not see this coming," because only 2 days before they released the Stadia SDK, the latest update of it. So with new UI updates and stuff, and they changed some things in the store to make it look prettier and stuff. And the very next day, everybody's saying, "Thanks for all your work. It's going to be used for about 2 hours, and then we're yanking the plug." And I'm certain there's a lot of UI designers who designed that website who just went over to the bar and said, "Okay, make it a triple and leave the bottle." So, yeah. So let's go read here some more of my posts. One person writes, Vince94 writes, "I enjoy your bad jokes." I'm assuming he's referring to my Twitter handle, which is Burger Becky, by the way. So please follow Burger Becky on Twitter. And Burger Becky, it's Rebecca Heineman on Google. I'm trying to change that to Burger Becky, but we're working on it. Mopey Bloke writes, let's see here. Vince94 writes, "I saw an article recently that said people are canceling Spotify in favor of iPods, CDs, vinyl, etc. because of the ownership thing, and because of how algorithmically selected music tends to change the way you listen to music from enjoyment to just background music." It depends. Again, it's always back to, we're changing the subject here to Spotify. Spotify has its own uses and need. I mean, I have a Spotify account, and I listen to music in the background while I'm working. So it's my version of Muzak. So pretty much that is what I want. But I do have a whole slew of music CDs, which I then put onto a media server, so that if I ever wanted to listen to music that I actually own, it's there available forever. And of course, if my media server ever dies, I have the CDs. So, at least I have a copy of it forever. But your point is taken. Vince94 writes, "I'm probably not doing it justice. It was really interesting. I like the library metaphor. Good." Tildak Kilsek, I'm sorry for butchering your name. I have a friend, yes, a friend that works for a company with an MMORPG on Stadia. My friend tested the Stadia versions, black box testing and running the GGP scripts and checking results. I'm pretty sure the arrangement was as you create a game account the game company's website can do for free. If you pay for Stadia, you can access the game and its base content. If you want premium content, you go to the game company's website with your game account and pay them for it. Yeah, pretty much. And, you know, I was making... Luxor Evolved. There you go. Tide that continues. This way, the player keeps the e-content because it stays with the MMORPG company, and you could use that game account with the standard PC client. Well, my friend's team was surprised too by the announcement. Here we were regularly cranking out releases on Stadia every 2 weeks with no notice at all from Stadia. The team leader immediately pointed out, think of all the games set to debut in Stadia in the next 3 months. Then we found out Google Stadia's engineers had no notice either. Yeah. Case in point. The thing that he brought up, or she brought up, is that game releases come in cycles. We do spring releases, summer releases, but the biggest one is the Christmas release. That's why Luxor Evolved was going to be coming out Christmas, because that's where a majority of games are sold. It's, Black Friday, the what's it called, Cyber Monday, etc. You want your games out by Christmas because that's where you get the biggest sales. And in our particular case, it was going to be the biggest advertising push, because if everything worked out the way we wanted it to, we were going to be releasing the Xbox version on December 1st. So we were going to announce the other versions, beyond Stadia, and then we're going to be releasing the Xbox version. Of course, with the Xbox version, we were going to say $19.95 to play it on Xbox, or $14, whatever the market will bear. Or who knows, if we were really lucky, we might have gotten on Xbox Game Pass. We're still working on that part yet. But if you had the game already debuted on Stadia and we had numbers to back it up, it would have made a much more powerful argument for us with Microsoft to get Luxor Evolved on Xbox Game Pass, which would have, helped us a bit, we hope. But and I know we weren't the only one. In Christmas, that's when you release all the games. So what possible worse time for developers could end killing the platform in the month before the winter sales? And it's like, holy hell. And our problem was that we were devoting so much energy into the Stadia version that had we known this months ago, we would have already shipped the Xbox version by about now. We were just focused on first porting it to Stadia, so we had to drop what we're doing, work on the Stadia version, get used to the Stadia platform, blah, blah, blah. I already worked on the Stadia, but some of my teammates did not, so we had to train them. And then once that was up and running, then we had to start making Stadia content, and then make some changes so it would work better with this controller. All these little nuances. And it's gone. Now, after the Stadia rep apologized up and down to me, she then asked me, how much did it cost? What did we spend on creating the Stadia-specific version? Now, of course, the number she meant, like, any amount of money you spent on all the versions. That's not our problem. But all the money spent specifically on Stadia. So I went and gave a ballpark figure. It says, this is pretty much what it is. And of course, I looked up the numbers afterwards and said, yeah, the number I gave her is maybe a little low, but if I got that amount of money back, it would basically nullify the pain. So she says, okay, we're working on it. Now, of course, it's been a week and a half since then, and I'm certain that she's already had to pretty much contact every single developer that's under her auspices, and I'm certain and she's not the only one. They have several developer reps, and each one is managing a number of developers, and they had to make that phone call, and I am certain some of those phone calls were not nearly as nice as mine, because at least I said, I understand, it's a business decision, you didn't understand it, but, help me out here, I'm going to be out a lot of money. to other people who probably were inventing new foul language to express their dissatisfaction about how this was handled. Because as it was said on Twitter, several developers said, "Holy forking shirt balls. What is going on?" And since I was among several developers who, as soon as it hit, started saying, "Well, yeah, that's a bummer." I got contacted by at least a dozen reporters who all asked me interviews and so forth, saying, "So, did you know anything about it?" It's like, no. Did the people at Stadia know? So it's like, based on what I've been told, they were just as blindsided. From all I know, now granted, I can only speak for myself, and I know that I had no idea whatsoever that this was coming. None. I even had a meeting with scheduled on my calendar 2 days in the future, on the day I found the news, of where we were going to spend talking with their marketing department on placement of Luxor Evolved on the store, what logos, what they wanted to see in the video, and how long the video, all the little things for marketing, and of course the initial copy, the ad copy. And that was our meeting. We were supposed to be doing that, like a week ago, and it's gone. And it's like, well, I guess that meeting's off. And of course, when my rep did call me up, she goes, "Yeah, that meeting's off, as well as every other meeting, both internally at Stadia as well as externally at Stadia." So I'm like, well, before I let you get off the phone, this is what I was talking to my rep, there is one thing I need to talk to you about. I work with the Video Game History Museum here in Frisco, Texas. And one of the things that we are trying to do as an initiative is to preserve video games. Now, of course, someone like the Internet Archive would also be interested in something like that, where would it be possible to do a snapshot of the Stadia servers, grab a couple of the rack-mounted units, donate them to the Internet Archive, to the Strong Museum, to the Video Game History Museum, and then set it up so that it will actually work remotely for free in perpetuality, with, of course, the games being given permission by their copyright holders, so that the Stadia experience can be preserved for museums and online play for people who want to experience what it was like to live in 2021. Because, somebody's going to try it again, but it's just like, actively try to preserve this stuff, because once those servers go down in January 2023, if there isn't any sort of an effort to pull some of these servers and mount them somewhere and then make modifications of the software so that it can then be just run for free, then the entire experience will evaporate and will never be seen again. So I proposed this to the people at Stadia, and they were actually receptive to the idea, which is a good thing. Whether or not that actually bears fruit, unknown. Whether or not we're going to get reimbursed, unknown. If after, let's say, 3 or 4 months and I don't get any sort of closure or any kind of promise, I'm probably going to say some expletives on my Twitter account saying, "Well, thank you very much, Google, for making me lose this much money on your empty promises. If they reimburse me, well, then I'll say it was a nice, so long and thanks for all the fish, and just move on." But then again, it would be nice if they did this to every single developer, like Tildak Killsex friend, that they make it right. Because, speaking for old school, we invested a lot of time and money and resources in order to bring a good, excellent, casual game to the Stadia platform, and we really wanted to make this a really nice experience, so people playing it would love playing Luxor Evolved, and it would work really well on the Stadia. and then have the rug pulled. And speaking from experience, one of the things that demoralizes a game developer is finding out that working on a project, even if it's only for a few months, but the more time you work on it, the more pain it is, and then finding out that for reasons unknown or reasons known, your work will never see the light of day. That you'll never be able to say, hey, I worked on that game. See those models? Those are mine. See that game AI? That visual effect was mine. The game code? Oh yeah, I got the source code here, but I have pride. I made that game work. I made it create. The writer, see all that script writing? I'm going to put that on my resume. To be told, yeah, you could say you worked on it. Good luck showing off your work to anybody, because they're going to have to take your word for it. And that causes people to leave the industry. Anecdote. My wife, Janelle, worked on a game at CCP called Worlds of Darkness. It was based on Vampire the Masquerade. She worked on that game for 3 years, creating levels, creating scripts, creating scenarios. It was a lot of work. And then it's gone. CCP, whatever their own decisions, they made the decision to cancel a project, meaning that 3 years of Janelle's life, of her work, of her writings, of visual effects, visual things, no one's going to see it, ever. And that breaks people. Because, I mean, Janelle, after that, she, other than doing some work with Old School and so forth, she's basically just doing painting miniatures and writing books. And she's got one coming up soon, so maybe in a few weeks we may be talking about that. But as far as her enthusiasm for working for a major video game company is pretty much gone. Continue here. Vince, this is Olivia Live 94. Twitch doesn't let you change your username. Sorry. Oh, okay. Krieger 3 writes, what a ridiculous shutdown process. Agreed. The Stadia shutdown was like the only way that it actually has been done in history. There was Sega made a thing called the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was a really, really great, ahead of its time video game console. And we were working on a game called Deer Hunter for it. And it's gone. Because Dreamcast, Sega, out of the blue, said, as far as we were concerned, we're no longer going to manufacture the Dreamcast. And while they're still in the stores, and we're still letting you press discs and release them, no one else is going to buy them anymore. And we're like, oh, gee, thanks. This really feels like that, what Stadia did. The only difference, though, is that, unlike Sega, every instance of the Stadia is going to be disintegrated and just spontaneously vanish come January 18th, I believe it was. Which makes that really depressing, because that means everybody's game, no matter what it is, you can't play it anymore because the hardware doesn't exist anymore. At least it's been shunted, turned off, or repurposed. Pinkamina writes, I've turned off all autoplaying on Spotify and listen to my own curated playlists or full albums by artists I like. Oh, that's the Spotify topic. Tildak Killsec writes, you pronounced it right. No one gets it right on the first try. Huzzah! Oh, all right, well, Tildak Killsec, I'm glad I'm not mangling your name. I'm pretty certain I'm probably mangling it now, but we'll see. Krieger 3 writes, I have a curated Apple Music library, and I love using it, but I maintain physical media in the form of a few IKEA collapsed shelves buckling under the weight of too many vinyl records. Time and place for both. Yeah, I have Laserdiscs. I have about 600, 700 video Laserdiscs that are sitting in record boxes downstairs, and I have a Pioneer LDW1 Laserdisc player that I maintain in pristine condition to every now and then spin a Laserdisc, like, Song of the South. So I could go like, damn Disney, oh, what made you make this movie? What's wrong with you? Krieger writes, couldn't imagine a service that I pay monthly for and then have to pay more to own games behind a gated subscription service run by folks that go through new product launches like popcorn. Krieger, that's the whole conversation that we're having right now. Burn Ya Bad writes, Taco Cat is a palindrome. Well, come on. Taco Tober Fest. We'll talk about that after this. Let's see. Sci-Fi Marine writes, hey, Becky, glad you're on this evening. Hi, Sci-Fi Marine. Glad you're on, too. Hopefully you were able to catch the entire video. If not, after we're done here, you can just, scroll to the beginning and watch what you missed. Well, since that's pretty much all that I know about Stadia, other than it is now, the only thing I have to do now is just take my dev kit that I have right here, this white PC that I'm pointing at. That's a Stadia dev kit. Now, that's not a rack-mounted unit. This is used for doing local development. It's probably after I archive everything and so forth, it's probably going to end up in a museum. So you'll be able to see it, the Video Game History Museum, when time comes around. But the... what we're going to mumble here. Curated media, library... Taco Cat. Before I close out, I want to let you know that Janelle and I have declared October will now always be, and henceforth known as Taco Tober. And we're celebrating Taco Tober with Taco Tober Fest. With Taco Tober Fest, we celebrate Mexican food by basically going to a Mexican restaurant every single weekday. And it's a different one, thankfully, because in Texas here, in Dallas, there are more than enough unique Mexican restaurants that every single day we are going around enjoying their delicious food. In fact, most of them are places that we've been to already. And as a result, on Twitter, I've been retweeting a special Twitter account called Taco Cat, who is our unofficial mascot. And here's the Taco Cat right here. And we have the Taco Witch, who is wearing... Her witch's hat is actually a sombrero with tacos on it, and the sugar skull from Dia de los Muertos. And, of course, she's enjoying a delicious taco, flying on a flying taco. Now, this shirt's available on at Dragon Girl over at Cafe Press, I believe. I'll go ahead and... send a link in the description on YouTube. I'll modify that, but I will be tweeting it on Twitter. So follow me at BurgerBecky, BurgerBecky. Follow me on Twitter, and then you'll get the link so you can get your own Taco Toberfest shirt. But you don't need the shirt. All you got to do is just go to a Mexican restaurant and Taco Bell and go to enjoy your delicious Mexican food, take pictures of it, tweet it, and share with the Taco Cat. And hopefully, maybe every year, we'll have a Taco Toberfest where everybody just enjoys their delicious tacos. And yes, this shirt was designed by Janelle Jakeways. And it's to celebrate tacos, because we love Mexican food. So, if there's any more questions, if there's not any more questions, then I will be signing off. But I wanted to let everyone know that... Stadia is unfortunately gone bye-bye. Specific reasons, that's for Google to tell, that's not my story. All I know is that we were quite blindsided, shocked, and out of some money right now. Thank you, Google. We'll see if they make it right, because as of today, ain't happening. So, I will bid you adieu, and enjoy everything out there in Twitch TV land, YouTube land, Facebook land, whatever land.